Now we're going to concentrate on this cape. This piece doesn't have too much additional details in terms of the sculpting unless you want to add more damage to it, but it is perfect to introduce the next technique. Go ahead and select the cape and enter solo mode. And the first thing that we need to do is to generate some UV maps like we've done in the past. Make sure that you're in the lowest subdivision level if you have subdivided this model. And let's go ahead and go to the C plugin and expand the UV master and simply click on wrap. And ZBrush should work this one out rather quickly. Alright, and now that we have UVs, let's go ahead and expand the surface subpalette. Now from here we can click on this noise switch and this pop-up window will appear, and here we can tweak some of the settings and add some surface noise really quickly. We'll do that in a second, but first I just want to show you that this is not just for tiny details. We could also use this to deform the mesh a little bit and add a little bit of variation to the surface in general. So let's go ahead and switch to these UVs with this switch right here, because now we have UVs and the effect will be applied following the UV layout that we created. Now we can increase the strength using this slider, and then we can update the scale of the noise using this noise scale slider here, do something like that. And we can also tweak the curve down here, and we can alter the distribution of the depth of this effect. I'm going to keep it simple like this, and of course you can come back and tweak the sliders a bit for the noise if you want. Now let's go ahead and click on the OK button, and you'll see our mesh updates with the noise. This is only a preview, so if you switch this noise off, the effect disappears. But let's leave it on, and let's go to the lowest subdivision level from the geometry subpalette. And let's go back to the surface noise subpalette and click on Apply to Mesh. So what this button does is to project this noise into the mesh, so that is no longer a preview. However, because we applied the noise in the low poly version of this mesh, or the lower subdivision level, ZBrush doesn't have enough polygons to describe the exact same amount of details that we had in the noise. So we end up with this mesh slightly deformed, and we can go back to the highest subdivision level and see that it looks smooth but with some variations. Of course, you can create a new sculpting layer, for instance, and record this effect before you apply it, like we did in the previous video, but I'm going to leave it as it is right now. Now let's go ahead and make the effect that will really sell this piece of clothes. Let's go back to the noise pop-up window, and because we already tweaked the noise, let's click on edit, and this time we're going to produce a noise based on a tileable alpha. From the bottom left of this window, click on this text here that says alpha on off, and now you can navigate to the resource folder and select one of the alphas from the woven pattern from the tileable alphas folder, and I'm just going to choose one of these. Now the alpha is loaded, you can see it a preview here, but we cannot see it because ZBrush remembers the previous settings, so let's go ahead and change them first. Let's set the noise scale to 0 since we're not using the noise but an alpha. Also make sure that the mix basic noise slider is set to 0 so that we only see the effect of the alpha pattern and not the noise. And now we can play with the alpha scale and the strength sliders just to find a good balance for this pattern over our cape. Alright, and once you're happy with these sliders, click OK. And now we can see the cape with this noise or this alpha pattern all over it. And I think this is pretty exciting. It is a very simple but very effective way to add surface noise and details to our meshes. Now to wrap up this detailing of this piece of clothes, let's quickly modify the standard brush to fake some small knots around the clothes. So let's go ahead and select the standard brush. And from the brush palette, let's go ahead and clone it. And I'm gonna change the stroke to the spray. And let's go ahead and add an alpha, something like maybe like alpha 40, the one with a tiny little dot in the middle. And before we apply this, we're gonna record it in a new layer, like we did before with the poncho. Now I'm gonna start recording and randomly apply this brush around the mesh. And we can perhaps also tweak the intensity just to exaggerate the effect if you want. And then we can take our smooth brush and reduce the amount of knots just in some areas. And as you can see, because we haven't applied the noise pattern, when we smooth out these areas, the noise is not being affected. Finally, we can go back to the layer and lower the overall intensity of this effect. Okay, and there's one more thing that I'd like to show you to wrap up this video. There are certain features in ZBrush that won't work because you have sculpting layers. So in most cases, you can simply start recording on a new layer if you want to add extra details or change something. But not all the features in ZBrush are the same. So if you encounter this issue, you need to click on this button here that says Bake All. and this will essentially bake all the details from all the layers into your mesh. So you'll be able to keep all the details, but you will lose the ability to adjust the intensity of this effect. So only bake your sculpting layers once you're happy with the overall contribution of each one of the layers that you have. Great, this one is done and dusted. So let's continue with the front and back gowns in the next video.